Hello traders, welcome back to the rabbit hole, and let's dive right in. Yesterday, we were closely monitoring a few key levels and potential setups to get involved in a trade. We discussed scenarios where we could either see a shallow or a slightly deeper pullback. As it turned out, Bitcoin gave us a shallow pullback, dipping right into a level of interest. I'm sure some of you spotted that as well, and hopefully, you were ready for it. Now, I was waiting for a structural setup to form, ideally on the 1-hour time frame. And guess what? Bitcoin gave us just that last night, which led to a pretty solid move to the upside. Who else managed to catch that trade? Let me know in the comments if you did. But I have to be honest, the execution wasn't as straightforward as I hoped. The low Bitcoin made yesterday was what we call a poor low, and statistically, poor lows often get wicked out sooner or later. I've actually gathered some interesting stats on this over time, but that's a story for another video. Despite the tricky execution, we didn't have to wait long for Bitcoin to hit our target. That was a nice, quick move, which brings us to the current levels. So, let's break down the data. Mondays tend to close positively 58.54% of the time, with an average gain of 3.38%. That would bring Bitcoin to around 65K. On the flip side, on days when it closes negatively, the average loss is 2.24%, which would bring us to 61,422. Now, if we break out, Bitcoin could reach much higher levels. But I'll keep my focus on the maximum percentage move if Bitcoin exceeds the average range. More often than not, Bitcoin trades within this range, and we're always on the lookout for that. If Bitcoin closes near the average gain, that's a great sign. But if we get pullbacks, we'll want to see the bullish structure stay intact. This is where I'd look for potential levels to add to my position. Now, if it turns out that this is the top of the move and we start heading lower, I'm not going to rush into a trade. For me, I need to see clear signs of market weakness and a valid invalidation level. This only happens when we see a range or structure forming at the highs, followed by a break to the downside, ideally with a 12-hour sweep and a 1-hour or 4-hour break. Do you wait for confirmation like this, or are you more aggressive with your entries? I'd love to hear your approach. If none of those conditions are met, I'll simply sit tight and wait for the next best opportunity. Patience is key. Let's talk about the new levels Bitcoin has now, and whether there are any worth getting involved in. Of course, we have a new daily order block. But keep in mind that for it to be a valid order block, we need to confirm a daily break above the previous high. It needs to close above that level. Otherwise, it's not perfect in my book. Sure, it could still act as potential support, but to me, it's not a valid intradaily structure break unless we close above it. As for my plan to get involved, it's pretty straightforward, it's almost always the same play. I want to see the price retrace into the level, give me a structure break, and then I'm ready to jump on the train. We'll just apply the old plan to the new levels and move forward. That's one of the advantages of having a consistent strategy, it saves you a ton of time when drawing up your levels. But, of course, experience also plays a huge role in knowing when and where to look. Now, let's talk targets. I'd personally be aiming for new highs, as there's not much resistance above us right now. Liquidity is key here. What do you guys think? Are you targeting liquidity too, or do you have other levels in mind? But what if the market turns bearish? Well, like I mentioned earlier, I need to see weakness. I won't jump into shorts unless I see a structure break to the downside. This could happen at these levels or even higher. Once we get that break, that's when I'll start looking for short setups. This channel will mostly be about this particular strategy, as it's consistent and a bit simpler compared to some others. I do have a more advanced strategy based on statistics, where you don't have to wait for a structure break, but we'll save that for another time. Now, if Bitcoin takes out the highs and we get a 4-hour structure break, one of my main targets would be the daily order block for taking profits. Of course, this order block could hold, or it could break to the downside and turn into a bearish breaker, in which case we'll adjust our strategy accordingly. It's all about reacting to what the market gives us. Finally, there's always the possibility that this is the move we've been waiting for. And if it is, that's fine by me. We've prepared for both scenarios, and the data backed it up. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Were you prepared for this move? What's your plan going forward? I hope you found this breakdown helpful. If you did, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates. As always, keep in mind that I'm not a financial advisor, so make sure to read the disclaimer. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.